You've heard it, a sharp tap on the glass. Early morning, maybe once, maybe 3 times in a row, you roll over, look at the window, and there it is. A bird right there at the pane, and then it does it again. And you already have the answer. The bird is confused by its own reflection. That's it. That's the explanation. Everyone says it, and it's technically not wrong. But here's the problem. If that explanation were complete, the behavior it describes would look completely different from what you're actually seeing, because confused animals behave randomly. They change locations, they give up, they move on. What you are watching at your window is none of those things. It's the same bird at the same window at the same time of day for days or weeks in a row. That is not confusion. That is a campaign. And the science behind why it's happening is one of the stranger things you'll ever learn about how bird brains work. Stay until the end. The last section covers a specific thing researchers recently confirmed about avian cognition that makes this behavior not just explainable, but completely mathematically inevitable. The behavior has a formal name, territorial glass striking, and to understand why it happens, you need to understand what that word territorial actually means in the context of a bird's nervous system. Songbirds, especially males, do not experience territory the way we talk about it casually. It isn't a preference. It isn't a feeling of ownership. It is a hardwired biological state activated by hormones, specifically testosterone and its related compounds, that surge during late winter and early spring in preparation for the breeding season. When a male bird is in this hormonal state, his threat detection system doesn't just activate. It runs at maximum sensitivity all day, every day. That system has one primary trigger, the visual input of a male bird of the same species in his territory displaying at him. When he sees that input, a cascade of responses begins. Alarm, approach, display, challenge. The whole sequence runs automatically. It doesn't require a decision. The stimulus fires the response. Now put a window in his territory, a flat pane of glass that at certain light angles, particularly the low angles of early morning light, acts as a near perfect mirror. He sees a male bird of the same species displaying at him in his territory. His threat system fires. He approaches, he challenges, he strikes, and the rival matches him move for move because it is him. He is not confused about what he's seeing. His nervous system does not have a category for reflection. It has a category for rival male, and what he is seeing fits that category perfectly. Now here's why dawn specifically, and this connects to something most people have heard but never fully understood. You've heard the dawn chorus, that explosion of bird song that starts before sunrise and peaks in the first 30 to 45 minutes of light. Most people assume it's just birds being cheerful about the morning. It isn't. The dawn chorus is territorial broadcasting. Every male bird singing in those first minutes of light is announcing his presence, his location, and his health to every rival in earshot. He is saying, I am here, I am strong, this territory is occupied, do not test me. The reason it happens at dawn is hormonal. Male songbird testosterone levels peak in the early morning hours. At first light, a territorial male is at his highest biological activation, most vigilant, most reactive, most primed to respond to threats. His threat detection system is running at full power, and that is precisely when the morning light hits the glass at a low enough angle to produce a mirror reflection. The timing is not a coincidence. The bird's most intense hormonal activation and the window's most perfect reflective angle happen at the same moment every single day. He is not just seeing a rival. He is seeing a rival at the moment he is most unable to ignore one. Here is why it never stops. In a normal territorial confrontation between two real birds, the conflict has a resolution. One bird eventually gives ground. The intruder retreats. The territory holder chases. The confrontation ends, the threat system resets, and both birds go back to normal behavior. There is a winner and a loser. In the glass, there is no resolution. Every time he approaches, the rival approaches. Every time he displays, the rival displays. Every time he retreats, the rival retreats. The confrontation never concludes. There is no winner. There is no moment when his threat system can register that the rival has been driven off. because the rival never leaves. So the next morning, his threat detection system activates again. The rival is still there. The confrontation resumes. Researchers who have studied this in cardinals describe it as a closed behavioral loop. The stimulus produces the response, the response fails to eliminate the stimulus persists, the response repeats. The bird is not choosing to keep coming back. He is responding to a threat that, from his nervous system's perspective, never went away. Not every bird species does this, and the pattern of which ones do tells us something useful. The most commonly documented species for territorial glass striking in North America are northern cardinals, American robins, dark-eyed juncos, and song sparrows. In Europe, European robins and house sparrows are frequently reported. What these species share is strong male territorial defense and high visual sensitivity to conspecific rivals of the same species. These are birds whose territorial systems are heavily dependent on seeing rivals, not just hearing them. Visual threat detection is a core part of how they defend space. Species that rely more on acoustic territory defense, many warblers, for example, show this behavior less frequently or not at all. Their threat systems are less dependent on the visual input of a rival male. The behavior is also almost exclusively male, almost exclusively during the breeding season window of roughly February through June, depending on species and latitude, and almost exclusively at the same individual window, because the window is in that specific bird's territory. Other males in adjacent territories are striking other windows if there are windows in their territories. It is location specific because territory is location specific. Researchers studying this behavior have done something illuminating. They tried to break the cycle. In one of the most cited studies on this behavior, researchers working with territorial cardinals covered the outside of a window with opaque paper, eliminating the reflection entirely. The tapping stopped immediately. The bird visited the location, found no rival, and moved on. Then they removed the paper. Within 24 hours, the tapping resumed. This result tells us something precise and important. The bird had not learned that the window was not a real rival. The encounter with the covered window, the absence of the reflection, did not update his classification of that location. When the reflection returned, the rival was back. The previous days or weeks of failed confrontations had not taught him anything that changed his response to the visual stimulus. He saw a rival. He responded. This is the cognitive limit at the center of this whole behavior, and it is one of the most important things to understand about how bird minds work. Birds, including songbirds with relatively complex cognition, process the world largely through immediate stimulus response systems rather than through persistent mental models that they update over time. He is not building a picture of this window as a window. He is reacting to what is in front of him right now. The reflection is there, the threat fires, the response runs. Every morning is, from his perspective, a new encounter with a rival that is in his territory today. This behavior is not harmless. Studies measuring stress hormones in birds engaged in prolonged territorial glass striking found elevated corticosterone levels, the avian equivalent of cortisol. The bird's body is under sustained stress from a conflict that cannot resolve. In some well-documented cases of extreme glass-striking behavior, researchers have observed measurable beak wear on the tip, feather condition degradation on the breast and face from repeated physical contact with the glass, and reduced foraging time. The bird is spending energy and biological resources on a conflict with an opponent that cannot be defeated and cannot concede because it does not exist. In most cases, the behavior diminishes naturally after a few weeks as hormonal levels shift through the breeding season and territorial intensity decreases. But in some individuals, the behavior persists across multiple breeding seasons at the same window year after year. There are documented cases of the same bird returning to the same window for 3 consecutive springs. If this is happening at your window, the solution is simple and specific, and it has nothing to do with frightening the bird. Shooing the bird does nothing because you are not the stimulus he is responding to. Hanging a wine chime near the window does nothing for the same reason. What removes the behavior is removing the reflection. The most effective methods are all variations of the same principle. Make the outside of the glass non-reflective in the area the bird is targeting. Soap applied to the exterior glass. Frosted window film. A strip of fabric or paper taped to the outside. A screen placed against the exterior surface. Any of these eliminates the mirror effect. The rival disappears. The confrontation ends. The behavior stops, typically within 1 to 2 days. The key is applying the barrier to the outside of the glass. The reflection is produced by the exterior surface. Placing something on the inside, a plant, a piece of paper, a suction cup decoration, reduces the reflection somewhat, but rarely eliminates it. The outside surface still reflects. The bird still sees the rival. One application of window film or soap marks on the exterior glass, and the bird's territory is intact. The rival is gone, and your mornings are quiet. Here is what the window tap actually is. It is one specific bird, almost certainly a territorial male, almost certainly a cardinal, robin, junco, or sparrow, in the peak weeks of his breeding season, responding at maximum hormonal intensity to a rival that will never concede because it is his own image in the glass. The dawn timing is not coincidence, and the repetition is not stupidity. Both are the predictable output of a threat response system running exactly as evolution designed it in an environment that contains something evolution never prepared it for. Glass is one of the youngest surfaces in the history of bird evolution. Flat, smooth, reflective architectural glass has existed for a fraction of a percent of the time songbirds have been defending territories, and their nervous systems have had no time to adapt to it. So they apply the framework they have. They see a rival. They respond. The bird at your window is not confused. He is completely specifically, and from the perspective of every system in his body, correctly responding to a threat that his biology tells him is real. He is fighting as hard as he can against something that doesn't exist, and he will keep fighting until the hormones shift or the reflection disappears. The next time you hear that tap at dawn, you'll know exactly what's happening on the other side of the glass. It isn't random. It isn't accidental. It is one bird doing the only thing his nervous system knows how to do with the input it's receiving. Tell me in the comments. Has a bird been tapping your window? What species? Which window? How many mornings in a row? And did you try anything to stop it? I want to know. I read all of them. I'll see you in the next one.